Good evening, friends. Sharon Danley here and John
John Mueller.
Mueller. How are you, John?
Good, good. Still no worse for wear with my little recovery from
So
skin cancer.
it's not
So,
it's not it's not trying to keep your brains in from exploding.
no.
Uh, well, I'd like to invite everybody. I don't see anybody on the line right now. I do see a thumbs up, so I've invited you to the group, folks. I'm going to do a little housekeeping. And first, let me take you to here because I want to show you folks that if you want to be seen, all you have to do is click on the Ecamm Live link directly above us. It'll take you to a second page like this where all you have to do is hit OK, and then you're done and back to John and I. So, John, do you have any welcoming comments for our friends?
Well, thank you for joining us again, and Sharon, thank you for hosting this. You have the all the challenges in front of you. I got to just show up. So you're the chief cook and bottle washer and doing all the tech things. So I appreciate the opportunity. But I did want to mention, we've been on the receiving end of a lot of, and anybody would, once you touch a subject like this, you're going to be called every name in the book. But, we are often called transphobic, homophobic, phobic. Let me speak to that now at the outset, because people think, oh, look, you're all about hate. Really? No, I think what this is all about, unapologetically, is how to keep kids safe.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about. Anybody can go onto my social media, my Twitter page, my Facebook, survivorsupport.net, onto yours, Sharon. They won't find one comment from either of us ever lambasting anybody's lifestyle.
No.
Now, I differ from those in the lifestyle, but you won't find one comment. That's never been a focus of mine. The focus has been, we have kids that are vulnerable, and there are predators. There are sexual predators that are targeting them. And the moment you say that, which tends to raise some real red flags, and that's the first thing that, in a way, what we'll talk about.
Right.
How do you help kids? The first thing is you got to know what you're dealing with. And, from the get-go, what I want to say is this. If anybody's going to accuse Sharon, you or me or us together, of being homophobic or transphobic, you can stop right now, because it's absurd, ridiculous, and you're slandering us. What we're talking about is kids. And if you can't get behind keeping kids safe, then I have real questions about what you're all about anyways then.
Exactly.
So if you get more defensive, the fact that, I'm sorry, if you feel then that talking about predators hiding themselves in every situation, apparently we would be okay if we just said they're hiding in church. That's my biggest concern. Hiding in schools, hiding in athletics, hiding in every endeavor. Apparently we're okay. But the moment we say, and they might even be hiding in the trans community or the LGBTQ community, suddenly we're phobic. Really?
Yeah.
So all other venues potentially have predators, except for ones that, quite frankly, in that lifestyle, there's a whole lot of deviant stuff going on. Look at Drag Queen Story Hour.
Right.
So where deviant men are, you got porn. Bottom line, that's really right.
Right.
So, just put it away. If someone's going to try to say we're transphobic, homophobic, just stop. How about this? Are you ready to protect kids?
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, John. Now, what I want to show you folks is this is what our discussion is for this evening. This is our third session. And for anybody who hasn't seen the first two, they're on this soapbox page, and you can find them in the videos. Today is about trans kids. And when you have trans kids that are our family or friends or whatever, ways to protect them it's protecting them while dealing with their parents or dealing with friends or whatever. Does that make sense? So that's what we're talking about today. And so our first question, John, to you is, how do we help concerned parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, sisters, or brothers with young people thinking or feeling they want to transition to the other sex?
Yeah. What I would first say is you have to understand what's going through their mind. And this is where the controversy comes in. To me, there's no controversy whatsoever. We either have going on worldwide right now, but I'm just going to focus on North America.
Okay.
Either we have uncovered in North America something that's always been there, the gender fluidity, the gender dysphoria, whatever terms you want to come up with. Okay. We're being told it's a real thing, so much so that kids are being subjected to hormone replacement or hormone therapy, and they're changing their sexes. That's not minor. So the question is, since this has come up in the past 10 years, 5 years, though, it's on steroids now, this push, it's either a recent phenomenon or it's always been there and people have misdiagnosed it. So people really need to begin to think, is it that bright people in the field of mental health and psychology were brain dead and they missed it? Or is this something new? And I'm here to tell you it's something new. And it's not hard for me to figure out what it is, and I'll share with you right now. So you need to understand what's behind this. Because if you have a grandchild, if you have a child, if you're dealing with a young person who says they're thinking about changing their sex, their gender. And I'm just not into the political correct stuff. People are coming up with names all over the place, binary and whatever. Okay, if a boy wants to become a girl, girl wants to become a boy.
Yeah,
that's not a minor thing. They just didn't wake up one day. So you're dealing with a pretty severe situation. They're not talking about getting their ears pierced.
Right.
They're not talking about getting a tattoo. They're talking about chopping off their genitals in a way. So,
yes. Yes.
Okay, so nobody wakes up one day. I don't care if you're even a susceptible middle school or junior high kid. Nobody wakes up one day and says, hey, I'd like to be the opposite sex. Something's been working on them. So the very first thing to understand, if you have a child that's already, that announces that's been a long time in the making, and they haven't been talking about it. So the very first thing is something's been going on, primarily in the parent-child relationship, to where there's been a lack of communication. Okay, that's not to say anything about the parent. It just means something's been going on behind the scenes. There are 4 primary influences. If a kid says he wants to change his gender, I used to work with kids in the system. Those in residential treatment, severely emotionally disturbed. You're not going to get worse than that. Yep. Those are the troubled kids. Okay, a kid that says he wants to change his gender, guess what? He's really troubled. And so psychology will come along and say, well, we're going to diagnose him. We have to give him no, I'll tell you exactly what's going on. It's worthy of giving diagnosis. I give diagnosis. Okay, but this gender dysphoria crap, there's time and a place. But once upon a time, it was nothing. There were no kids. Now, all of a sudden, every kid, something's going on. So the bottom line is this. Those kids that are thinking about it, I'll tell you what's going on in their background so that you have a way, a parent, a grandparent, so you can kind of be mindful of, okay, what are we dealing with? The very first and primary thing that should go through anybody's mind is there's been sexual abuse. Serious sexual abuse. Okay? That's the first place to go. That's where any responsible therapist should start. And what's happened with this trans movement stuff, and then along with that is, quote unquote, anti-conversion therapy. That is a misnomer. Let me speak to that right now.
Yeah.
That is such a deceptive term.
Yes.
Okay. People need to understand what this means. People thought, perpetrators or predator apologists thought long and hard how to twist the language. Because if you say, oh, it's anti-conversion, now you have religious connotations. It has nothing to do with that. What it means is this. Somebody's gone into the gay lifestyle. It used to have to do with adults. Okay, so they became gay, and they went to a therapist, and the therapist, quote unquote, talked that you can't talk somebody out of that. But the concept is they were gay, and now they've gotten out of the lifestyle, so they the therapist converted them out of being gay. See how tricky that language is?
Oh, yeah, I know.
And so now, because people don't want that, if it's an actual lifestyle and it's settled, you don't have to really get all up in arms.
Exactly.
But they're agitated. And so what they're going to do is they're going to stop anybody from, quote unquote, helping someone transition out of the lifestyle. Now we're talking about kids. So they call that because they're against it.
Yes.
So it's going to be anti-conversion therapy. No, what it is this. They're going to control what the therapist can or cannot say or where he goes with the client. And therefore, I'll tell you that the number one fallout, and I'm convinced this is the reason why they're doing it. Any responsible clinician, including medical professional, or really anybody that is a mandated reporter, if you hear a child that talks about sexual confusion prior to the age of puberty, that thought did not come from within him, because it is puberty that starts that process of kids suddenly becoming self-conscious. We all see around about 6th grade or 7th grade, or, suddenly boys want nothing to do with girls, and then all of a sudden, they don't have cooties. It's kind of right. If nobody has intervened in the process, a child will not have a sexual thought. And that's important now.
Yes.
A child will not, you leave a child alone,
yes.
A child will be fine.
Yep.
If a child starts to become confused about his sexuality, that has come from without in a couple different ways. Okay. The first is somebody has sexually perpetrated upon that child. That's a full gamut of ways to do that. Okay. If a child is sexually violated, one of the responses is, because it's too complex, that whole dynamic is very, very complex. They will blame themselves. That's why perpetrators know they'll blame the victim. So they'll turn it in on themselves. And one of the things that young victims conclude is, it must be because I'm a girl. So if I was a boy, this wouldn't keep happening to me. Same thing. A boy says, I hate being a boy, I want to be a girl. So any responsible adult, let alone a clinician, unless you threaten that clinician with loss of license or fines or jail time through anti-conversion therapy,
right?
Passing a law against that. Okay, any clinician, the moment a child says, I don't like being my gender, it doesn't mean you freak out. What it means is this. That better be the very first thing that goes through your mind, and begin the process of exploring. A child's never going to come right out, or rarely ever come right out and say it's perped on, even kids in residential treatment. So the first and foremost thing that's happening in this trans movement is there are kids that are sexual abuse victims. The second is there are kids that are easy prey because they have autism. The rates of autism, now they call it spectrum disorder. The rates of spectrum disorder, kids on the spectrum, are skyrocketing. My wife had to retire because of her head injury, but 30-year elementary school teacher. And she said it's phenomenal. It used to be one child every now and then. Now it's just, the geometric numbers are going up.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we have
yes.
Something I received today.
Okay.
Let's put it up. So what you have is somebody with autism lacks the natural ability to use their intuition. They're not as tuned into their intuition. Therefore, they're easy prey for somebody to perpetrate. And so it's a perfect opportunity, sadly, for someone that wants to perpetrate. I don't see the screen. I don't know if it's up there.
Yes,
Sharon.
I've got both of them up there, John.
Okay, there you go. That came up today, folks. When you read that, I can't see it. So
if you want, I'll read it for you. There's replying. I can't understand the person's name, but it says, all easy traps to an autistic human, understood, victimized, bullied, ignored, and desperate to fit in. And your response is, that shows just how easy it is for sexual predators to imply dress in drag to have 100% access to kids. And then the response back was, how can so many people don't see it? Being it is so obvious is beyond me. My autism makes me quite gullible and naive, and it's obvious even to me.
Okay, so there we go. So you have abuse, autism. The third thing to be aware of is you have some dark psychological manipulation going on, convincing kids. So that can be people in their life. People are grooming them now. Okay, school, somewhere in their life, you can have an actual perpetrator that's beginning the process of grooming. Child trafficking, how does that work? Oftentimes it's with other peers, sadly. And then the last is social phenomena, social psychology. You have in the culture right now through media, and there's a lot of influence right now by medical community and others. Sadly, they have a lot of vested interest in trying to turn kids trans. It's sick.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the first thing, really, how you help a kid. You begin to think in terms of, okay, what are the influences? And then get them talking. Because if they're bringing it up to you, that's a good sign.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so begin to ask a couple of questions. One is, well, tell me about it. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then the second would be educate them. They're not being told what happens. Okay, you're the adult. You know what happens if they start to change their gender. So help them, give them new information, because what's happening right now is very similar to, in their life, is similar to somebody that's grooming them into a cult. And so unless they have information to compare and contrast what they're being told, then they're believing a lie. And it's very easy with kids, of course, to distort their imagination.
Of course, of course. And there is, as one of our friends here said, there is a huge push by big money in pharmaceuticals and in the medical community because it's big money backing it up. And we all know, folks, that when you've got big money, you've got disaster, oftentimes, on the people on the ground. Now, we had a comment from our friend Helen Richards regarding females who want to transition to boys. And she says, perhaps the young person could be lesbian, but thinks her parents and community would be against that. Being trans is often more acceptable today because lesbians have been pushed under the bus, it seems, by the LGBT community. She could have the new anorexic social contagion. Anorexia used to be a big thing. This became popular. It becomes vogue, and kids catch on to these things. But right now it's trans. Trans is very in vogue. She could hate having her female body, again, in today's society, because young women are being propagandized to believe, and this is my thing, coming from the beauty and image arena, they're being propagandized to believe that their only value, not that it's new, folks, their only value is their sexual presence and what they can do for the males in their society. And what's happened is you go from the Marilyn Monroe era up to this era, and it's like, it used to be opposing. Now it's absolute sexual suggestion. You look on Instagram, and I look on some of the young YouTubers. It's all sexualized body language. And where's that coming from? From the trans drag community, where they hypersexualize the female. Females aren't like this. Females don't act this way. And it's got nothing to do with bad wigs, stilettos, and lips that have been so injected. It's ridiculous. But this is the message that young women get, and young men too, because they don't have the discernment yet. They're not mature enough to discern, to say, oh, pshaw on that. Or they're just kind of like big doughy-eyed kids that are taking everything in. So it's really something to be concerned about.
Sharon, if I might, let me interject just for a second. What I would say is this, and it's controversial. I don't really care because I know too much. Sorry. I've been doing this too long, working with kids too long. I would say this. For a girl to think about changing her gender, I would say or going into the lesbian lifestyle, people hate, it doesn't matter. I'm going to speak the truth. I would say there's a 98 to 99% likelihood that she's been sexually molested.
And John, speaking to that,
the reality is.
Yes, we know we know that sexual abuse is huge. It has been huge for quite a while now, and the sex trafficking in the world is a pandemic.
As a matter of fact, people need to.
And this is the background of this. Kids aren't safe in today's society.
That's right. I'm going to say this, and I've worked with hundreds of kids prior to then working in the prison. Okay, and really severe cases. I've never met one girl who shows evidence of significant psychiatric, behavioral or psychiatric issues, let alone wants to change her gender. I've never had one that hasn't been sexually abused. So I'm open to the possibility, or then became gay or went in the lifestyle. I'm open to that one, but I'm telling you, 99%.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody goes in the gay lifestyle, girls are different than boys. There's different dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
But 99% of girls, if they go into the gay lifestyle, if they're honest, because we'll have people, you're lying, but you know what? They finally get honest and say, yeah, you know what? I didn't. But I remember when I was age 4. Well,
I know.
Okay, because what we need are answers, and you can't have solutions until you know what the problem is. And if somebody's acting out toward themselves or somebody else out of anger, and therefore going into a lifestyle, we're not going to. The last thing you want to do is facilitate them going into that lifestyle when, in fact, they're not going to be healed until you deal with the original issue. So if someone has been impacted sexually, if a kid has, until that is addressed, they'll go from one thing to the next, and meanwhile, perpetrators are going to keep perping on them. And so by the time we would see kids, they had been so used and abused, and you look at kids going into the Gothic lifestyle, look at girls in Gothic. If that doesn't speak to you of multiple sexual abuse, why do you think they dress in black and piercing? If a picture's worth 1,000 words, it's screaming volumes. So people really need to be mindful that if a kid's doing something radical, especially a girl, you know what? They're acting out their pain. Their behavior is speaking volumes.
Yes, exactly, John. Exactly. And of course, there's a sharp rise in young girls wanting to trans over young boys. And she also states here too that it could also be just a mental illness, which can be treated with talking therapy. But the big money in pharmaceuticals and the medical industry and the back pocket politicians, their back pockets have been filled, who are writing the bills, are going to stop that. It gets in the way. So that's all of those things are important.
And Sharon, let me speak to it because that's important. I'm coming back. Okay, when people say it could be mental illness, folks, I'm licensed to diagnose. Me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm a therapist. So I can speak to the mental illness issue. Ready? Is it in here? Yeah, but the question is this: do they have a mental illness, or did other stuff, or are the symptoms? Okay, a kid who's depressed, is it depression, or are they acting out stuff? Okay, agitated depression. You have a kid that's angry, they're really depressed, but what is depression? The vast majority of times, unless it's genetic, unless it's chemical, it's the result of stuff that's being bottled up. What is it? Truth is trying to come out. Folks, I diagnose. So when someone says it might be mental illness, my response to people, I want them here, I diagnose. I'm a mental health clinician. I'm licensed. I do this.
Yes.
Okay. I'm telling you this. In the vast majority of cases, I want people to understand it's not mental health. Oh, it's in here, but it's not mental illness. It's stuff that's happened to them, and they've been stuffing,
John,
and now they're a mess.
And I'm going to interject here.
Yeah.
What they will try to do is say that because you have a natural response to sexual predation, they will try to say that you're the one with the problem, when in fact it is a natural response to being perped on.
That's right.
At the natural, so it's not a mental illness. It's a non-support. It's a response where there's been no support around to help, and that's where talk therapy would help. But nope, we're going to get rid of that.
Okay, that's right. And people need to understand this too. Okay, I can diagnose anyone. And here it is, if I give them a diagnosis, now they have a mental health or mental illness diagnosis. Here's all the diagnoses. I'm licensed to do that.
Yes, John.
But I'll tell you what will happen. The moment I tell someone, well, you have this, all sorts, right? Then we're going to go put them on meds, because if you have an illness, then you need medication. I'll tell you what's going to happen with these kids, exactly what's happening with them. And so the underlying issue is not being addressed. We now put them on meds. How's that working for us? And now
Well, John,
kids,
John, it's lifetime medical and pharmaceutical.
That's right.
You're locked in for life.
That's right.
Going down that.
So these kids are being misdiagnosed. Why? Because you start them on meds, and it's a whole lot easier to get them thinking in terms of, there must be something wrong with me. And again, there's a time and a place for meds. I'm not saying I'm in the field.
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. But when someone tells me, and hear this in a supportive way, those of you that are watching right now, technically, yes, you can say the child is mentally ill. But you know what? I want to scrap all that and say, no, the child is troubled. They've got stuff going on. They're sitting on a San Andreas fault worth of stuff, and they're trying to keep it together. And they're coming apart at the seams. And so they're trying to find radical solutions for radical pain.
Yes.
That's what's going on.
Right.
You ensure safety. You want to do the best you can. But to say they're mentally ill, really, it's not the case.
Yeah.
They're troubled.
Right.
And so we need to find out what's going on.
So, John, given that we know, what are some solutions that you could offer to parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, friends, whatever, when they see this kind of thing going on, or they hear, or the person's talk, or oftentimes you can tell, if you're aware at all in life, you can see a troubled person.
That's right. I would say first and foremost, the power of the relationship. So keep communication open. If you are a family member, or let's say a second or third degree family member, a grandparent or whatnot, if you're not within that primary inner circle, you're at a disadvantage, because ultimately it comes down to child and parent. But the key for any teen is relationship. Keep the communication open. But if this child is going to begin to move in that direction as far as sex change, you got to speak the truth. And so this child is lacking information. So somebody's grooming them. Something is happening to where it's filling their head with stuff, quite frankly. So you have to provide them with information that they're typically not going to get. Okay. Look up and show them what happens to young people. There's plenty of people that are detransitioning young people. Let them read the stories. Help them understand. As a matter of fact, Dr. Michael Laidlaw, Dr. William Malone. Those are two excellent gentlemen you can look up on the internet, on Twitter as well. They are endocrinologists, and they are giving factual information, what happens to young bodies that will set them up in their early 20s for serious health issues.
Right.
You're going to damage these kids, and therefore the kids need to know, okay, your heart's going to be impacted, your brain could be impacted, you could have cancer. Let this child know. This is not like getting a tattoo or piercing hair. Okay, so communication, education, support, and if the child has brought this to your attention, and let's say you're not the parent, you need to talk to the parent, because the child is crying out for help in one way or another. So you're going to have to somehow speak to the parent, but then maintain communication.
Great. Now, what another approach to this too is to keep yourself well armed, is to watch surgeries of sex reassignment. I really, folks, it's
true.
You have to,
Oh,
buckle up the seatbelt and watch it, because if you don't really see, and sometimes when appropriate, it might be the right thing for the young person to see. So they know exactly what they're getting into.
Show the kid.
Yes.
My recommendation is show it.
Yeah.
They do that with drugs.
Yes.
I mean, here before and after, and the kids freak out, understandably. Absolutely.
Right. Watch videos and read articles of bona fide medical people, like John was saying. Gather statistics and especially listen to detransitioners.
There you go.
You know, especially now I'm going to put up here for our.
As a matter of fact, Sharon, let me give it an excellent name.
Okay. Just a second, John. I'm already into this phase, but we'll come back to you. On this soapbox page, there are 3 new articles that are jam-packed with videos of all these things that John and I have been talking about. Articles, book recommendations, etc. And it's just a plethora of good knowledge. So I would highly recommend you go there. Just join the page, and you're welcome to take anything that is there. And they are being updated constantly. So it's a good place to start. And again, if you know everything you can know about it, and you've seen it all, share it. Share it where you can. Let them hear detransitioners talking about their regrets. Let them see the surgeries. You want to do this? Okay, then. It's like if you wanted to buy a car or something, wouldn't you take it out for a test drive? Why are you going to go into surgery when you don't even know what's going to happen to you? So that would be my recommendation, John. So you wanted to say something there.
Yeah, an excellent name for people to look up. You can find him on Twitter. It would be worth it. If you don't have a Twitter account and we're talking about this issue, this would be the most beneficial thing in and of itself. To go on to Twitter, look up James Shupe, Shupe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He is the groundbreaker in his case. He's detransitioned. He's back to a guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also Walters.
Walt
Heyer, yes.
That's right.
Great.
Okay.
There's some wonderful detransitions.
That's right.
That's right. And they're listed on the thing.
Oh, wonderful. Good,
yes.
good.
All that stuff is happening. Now, John, what do you do if you can't do anything?
There you go. First and foremost, I would say pray. And I don't mean that lightly. I'm a man of prayer. It depends upon why you can't do anything. If it's not your child, and the worst case scenario that would bring about a situation where you can't do anything. Either the child, you've heard indirectly about the child's going to do this, so you approach the child, and the child's just not going to communicate. Usually there's a little window for a moment. I would say, if nothing else, start with the medical information. Say, you might want to really see some of these, because kids are normally scared of pain. So that's a good place to start. That's probably the best place to freak them out with some of it, but it's real.
See the truth.
Show the surgeries, and then the testimonies of regret. Okay, so they're fully informed. Just say, you know what, you may only be getting one side of the information. You might want to think about this, because it's not like Pierce ears.
And John, I have to jump in here. Google's has been changing. They've got their algorithms really working overtime, as does YouTube, as does Facebook. What I'm finding is when I look for research on any of this stuff, I only get the supportive transing side. It is really hard to find, and getting harder by the day, to find information that speaks against it. So they don't want people to know the truth.
That's right.
So that's where responsible parents and loved ones need to find it and research it. And again, start with the page here. It's all freely available to you.
That's right. And that should help people understand that, if this were a normal thing, there would be pros and cons, and people wouldn't be rushing in. This is an agenda. And ultimately, medical industry, a couple different special interests, but predators. There's no other way to put it. And the best way to keep a kid quiet is you impact his sexuality. Think of Keith Raniere in NXIVM. It's exactly why he tattooed those women. Exactly the same thing. People need to understand that. And that was with adults. Mm-hmm. The more you impact, the more somebody allows themselves to be, and this is an adult, meaning if it's as powerful for an adult, how much more for a kid?
Yes.
Okay? The moment somebody allows their body to be impacted, you kind of begin to own them. Cults
Oh
understand
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's what's going on. And
Yeah.
so you have very nefarious people, and that's why they're so agitated. You touch on this subject, suddenly you and I, Sharon, we're homophobes, whoa, where'd that come from?
Yeah. I know. I know.
You look at the amount of energy that's directed our way. I had death threats this past week. Somebody's going to firebomb my house. Where's that come from? Okay? That means that's translated this. You'll shut your mouth. Don't you mess up our good thing because we're herding the sheep and we're a bunch of predators. Don't mess up our good thing.
Exactly.
That's what's going on.
Exactly. Well, John, we've come to the time where we're going to see if some people have some questions and comments here, and hopefully, we will be able to see them better this week because I put up a little gray thing to cover us up, and so we can see. And this person says throwing labels of transphobic or homophobic is a way of shutting down. Absolutely. Whoops! What did I do there? I don't want.
Let me speak to that real fast. The quick answer is this, folks. Just say, I don't know what you're talking about, transphobic, homophobic. I'm just here to protect kids. Don't you care about the safety of kids? You mean to tell me predators aren't out there? So keep on. By the way, keep on that. That's the heart of the matter. Don't let them get you sidetracked into anything else. This is all about safety for kids,
right?
Or safety of kids.
Right. And our next comment is not only is it something new, but it's socially driven. It's actually fashionable to be trans today.
That's right.
Isn't that true? And this person says, money, money, money. Mm-hmm. And ain't that the truth?
It's sick. That's exactly right.
It absolutely is. And then our next person says, transing kids will make a lot of money for a lot of interested corporations.
That's exactly right. The last thing they care about are kids.
Yeah.
How can I say that? I worked with them. Never in my wildest imagination would I have ever, 20 years ago, but still, then where was this issue?
Right, exactly.
The answer to hurting kids is not have them change their sex, their gender.
Yeah, I know. Now, son, this person here says, I don't think it's that simple. Now, I'm not sure what you were referring to, but
yeah, none of this is simple.
No, none of it is simple. And here's the next point. Transing kids will make a lot of money for a lot of interested corporations. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I already said that. Sorry, I'm backtracking here. And exactly the first thing to consider is abuse and its continuation.
There you go. That's you know what's going on. I mean, again, let me speak real fast to the person that said it's not that simple. Who said it was simple? We're trying to condense it. Trust me. Sharon's done a wonderful job helping me condense it. As a matter of fact, let me make a pitch. Survivorsupport.net. Okay, that's my website. I'm going to be launching a podcast hopefully by the end of the week. Okay. I can't tell you how many hours I have prepared. Hours and hours and hours. Okay.
Oh, I know
it's very difficult for me to summarize all this, but it's anything but simple. But what I'm telling you is this. If you have a troubled teen, Rome was not built in a day. A troubled teen does not become troubled in a day. It's a composite. I call it a couple of things. It's a scrambled egg. You're trying to unscramble the egg. It's a tangled ball of twine.
Yep.
But there still are some core issues. And rare is the time. It's almost unheard of that you have a profoundly troubled kid in this day and age that hasn't been perped on and hasn't been groomed, and that pornography, and here's the key, that porn hasn't been used by perpetrators. I cannot tell you, of all the about 4,000 predators I've worked with over 11 plus years in the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, for the pedophiles, about 1,000 of them were pedophiles. It was unbelievable how many of them used porn to groom their young victim.
Yes. And John, to that issue too is the video games, everything on TV, on Disney, the movies, everything on billboards in every kind of market there is, everything is sexualized today.
That's right.
And this is the message that kids are getting. So
That's right. Let me speak to that real fast. I'm going to add another piece. Sharon, is
because we
this.
got to keep it tight, John.
Okay, for instance, if you ask somebody, the average adult nowadays, if 50 Shades of Grey fits into pornography, they'll look at you. It's been my experience. They'll look at you like, no, that's entertainment. Okay, what's happened to us? That is torture. That is deviant stuff, and people yawn. And how many kids? They sell it at Walmart. So how many kids have seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I'm a kid and I'm a girl and I used to, let's pretend I used to watch Disney stuff, Some Enchanted Evening, and just want to grow up and be a fairy princess, and all of a sudden I see and probably heard about porn or seen some porn. This is what they're doing to girls. You mean those are my only two options? The girls begin to think of this. Well, I can never be a princess. How sad. Look what we're doing to kids. So the only option is what? To be used and abused and choked? Forget it all. I'm going to hang out with girls because at least they don't choke me. And maybe I'm better off being a guy than the guys won't choke.
Yeah.
That's what we're dealing with.
Exactly. And our next person here, let me just... it's all intertwined. It's transgender billionaires who are shadow funding LGBTQ rollout of transgender ideology. And a lot of them are invested in big pharma, sex reassignment clinics, which are opening up at a great rate across the country, and transhumanism technologies. Absolutely.
There's a game plan.
Oh, yes, there is.
Matter of fact, survivorsupport.net, if you go onto that website under Insights, drop down, you'll see the Predators game plan. Educate yourself. It's serious. It's unbelievable.
Right. Now, the next person we have here says autism spectrum disorders have reached exponential proportions. Kids, youth in the spectrum struggle with social interactions, making them socially vulnerable. Yes, they can be easily manipulated. The schools are grooming them with their sex ed curriculum, causing mass confusions. Yes.
That's 100% accurate. 100% accurate.
Yes, it is. Whoops, I did it again, folks. I put up the wrong, no, never mind what I did. Okay, and here's our next one. It says, my son was encouraged every step of the way, one of the most prestigious of all sex researchers around. This was his great help.
If that person could reach out to me and let me know, I already have a hunch.
Okay.
You know, people also need to look up, because this fits hand in glove. It's very, very important for people to at least begin to consider that this is not by accident what we're seeing.
No.
That this has been fitting into a very nefarious strategic plan. Do some important research on Alfred Kinsey of the Kinsey Institute now.
Yeah.
Right? He's the one that got all this stuff rolling.
Yes,
he was a deviant. He was a pedophile. He was as evil as they come. And he falsified his documentation, and he perped on kids, and he should have been arrested. Okay.
Right.
Judith Reisman has done a ton of work, but you need to understand there are certain researchers, in my estimation, that are predators or predator apologists.
Oh, yes.
They have an agenda, and one of the things they want to do is this: they want to float myths out there. They've done that effective. That's why they hate my research, though not published yet, because I know the dirty little secret, and sex offenders are having a heyday with it, and their sentences are being lowered. They're getting out early because of this nefarious crap.
Right. Now, this woman says, the woman that introduced my wife and I let her autistic teen daughter trans herself. We don't talk anymore. She knows how we feel and refuses to let us give her any information. She let her 16-year-old cut her breasts off. I still can't believe it. That just... I've seen some of these surgeries, and it just, every time I hear it, it makes me just so upset. And I think of women who are going through mastectomies because of cancer and things, and then they're cutting off this healthy tissue for some, I better zip it or I'm going to start going.
But Sharon, that's perfect. Your emotion is normal. Okay, and that's another piece that people need to really consider. Perpetrators and predator apologists will make you forget what's normal. Okay, a normal person hearing this is shocked. They're not defensive. They're not trying to shut you down. Anybody that comes at you to try to silence this stuff or try to say you're phobic, they're dark. They're already dark, and I'll tell you what, they're porn saturated. The vast majority of guys are these. The vast majority of these are guys that are heavily into porn, and they're dressing up like women in women's underwear. They're very dark, and they're probably a lot of them into trafficking, quite frankly.
Yeah.
They're harming kids.
Oh, Kurt. This person says she listened to and believed the doctors. Isn't that sad?
It's like Mengele.
Yeah.
And it's doctors know they're going to make big bucks.
For
it's
sure.
like it's Nazi Germany.
Yes, it is.
These doctors are like Nazi Germany. I cannot believe it.
Yep. And this person says, thank you for spreading common sense. Well, thank you for listening and helping to do it yourself. And this person says, the media and the medical complex and the drug pushers are all invested in this new cash cow. Ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth?
Well put. It's well put. And that's why we have to take this seriously. We have to spread the word. People can use survivorsupport.net as a resource. Please go on there. I've spent hundreds, thousands of hours actually putting that together.
Yeah.
Okay. It's very, very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this
kids are being harmed
yeah.
at lightning speed.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And this person says they are taking money to push the new trans narrative.
Yeah.
And this person says they did the same thing with the ADHD and put so many kids on Ritalin. Oh, yeah, I remember Ritalin.
Yep, that's right.
Yep, absolutely. And let me just get this spaced right. Sorry, folks. Hollywood is funded to push it as well. Oh my God, letting male cheaters into women's sports. Why is that even being tolerated for a second? Yeah, this is mass mind control to push in this whole new way of thinking and talking without people revolting and rebelling against this dystopian future they are manufacturing with TV shows, music, and drag queen story hour.
That's right. Sure, and as an aside, we've spoken about this before, but people also need to understand to be able to connect dots. The stuff that's going on with this Yaniv freak of nature, and I'll call him that. He's a sexual perpetrator that needs to be in prison, quite frankly, because he's already solicited and groomed young girls. It's been on tape. I've seen it.
Right.
But people need to understand that behind this, the most nefarious people are pedophiles, and they've hidden themselves within the radical LGBT movement. First of all, the women's movement. They are the Trojan horse. They are piling out of the Trojan horse now, and the last bastion is before they have complete access to kids are women. That's why you're seeing these men in drag. I'm going to use a French term. They're beating the hell out of women. Okay, and so they're doing it in sports. They're going to 100% correct.
Yep.
They're going to eradicate women. Ladies in Canada now, the tribunal, they're suing 16 women that simply didn't want to touch a guy's genitals.
Yep, exactly.
And women need to understand that they're going to be eradicated. You may think that's crazy. They're on track for it.
Well, not on my watch with my Darth Vader coat and my shoulders up and my elbows out and my sword ready from its sheath.
Okay, and by the way, if Yaniv ever hears this, come on, buddy. You and I are going to have a little chat live on Facebook, and we'll talk about your deviance. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Your sensitivity. Bring it on.
Yeah.
Do it to me now, and you know you're a little coward.
Exactly.
You have an open invitation. Anytime you want to come on with me, live Facebook, come on.
Yeah.
You want to talk to me about sensitivity?
Yeah.
Don't get me
now
started.
This person,
Billy, you reach out to me, Yaniv. You reach out to me now, you little coward, because you're taking on a bunch of women.
Yep. Oh, I know. That's what these trans.
That's my public service announcement.
Somebody
send that to him.
John, this is what these trans
look at
males.
I need a drink.
Yeah, this is what these trans males do. They go after women.
Nuts.
They go after women. And where are the men, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Where
As a matter
are
of
you?
fact, these little freaks of nature. Okay, I said it. Okay, they'll threaten you. Okay, one of them threatened to blow my house up.
Yep.
These are not sensitive, nice little men.
Yes, John. I understand. I understand, believe me,
Okay.
your frustration and your ire. This person says Google supports the trans narrative. Yes, and is actively involved in spreading it through their algorithms. Yes, yes, yes. I totally agree with you. I'm experiencing it myself. And this person says, and there is big dollars behind trans researchers. And you can go to this website here that anybody who's on looking at the comments, you can check out that link that that person has posted for us all. Thank you very much.
Sharon, let me again say, we are not transphobic. We're not homophobic.
No.
Transphobic doesn't even exist. Okay?
And
this is about protecting kids.
yes, and John, you know what? I'm tired of even saying that. I'm tired of defending the indefensible. I'm not even going to address it anymore. If that's the road you're going down, we know that you're not concerned about kids if you're going to call me or us that. Okay, so our next person says, Nellie's journey. I think that's Mary. Yes, an agenda. Wicked, wicked, wicked. Yes,
That's right.
absolutely. And this person says they are helping Big Pharma to manufacture consent in the population for their new transgender world order. Oh, yeah. And Helen Richards says, I can't comment on the stream, and it says 26 comments, but I can only see. I don't know why that is, Helen. We'll talk later. And then she says, I got it. Now she says, have you seen the court case going through about the trans guy at the funeral home? The case may set a precedent that sex is no longer protected under the law, so the rights of 50% removed to benefit 0.05%.
Right.
Oh, thanks for the good news, Helen.
You know, there is hope. I think people are awakening to the fact
yes,
that
they are waking up.
These are predators. These are predators that have spun. They have manufactured this. They've spun reality.
Right.
These are not nice philanthropic people, folks.
Right.
This is not how you help kids.
Yes.
How you help kids is you help them work through their things so they don't have to think about sexuality and get on with bigger and better things, like what's their future going to be. You know, if somebody is so trapped in sexuality all the time, I'll tell you what, they're fixated. That's not healthy.
No, it's not. This person says you need to be 21 to drink alcohol. So how is it that kids can decide to change their bodies so seriously before 21? Yes, of course, an excellent question, because our governments aren't doing what they should. This person calls the 50 Shades of torture. That's more like it.
And by the way, any women on listening, if there's any guy that is into 50 Shades, we even had a woman defend it. That is not normal. It's deviant. He's porn saturated, and you're risking all sorts of stuff. First of all, he's never going to stick around. He's going to potentially harm you. Some will even kill you. I worked with sex offenders. That is the number one. They were so thrilled that series came out. That should wake every woman up.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Okay? It is deviant and dark. I'm telling you, I wouldn't. It's dangerous.
Agreed. And this person says, I was in Milan this month. The majority of billboards depicted sexualized trans males, something I hadn't seen when I was there a few years ago. Yes, for anybody who's, given my background and what I try to keep my eyeballs on, the now L'Oreal, some of the major cosmetics companies, Vogue, other different magazines are now using trans men who call themselves female as their models. Ladies, you know, on my beauty page, my public beauty page here, don't buy any magazines. Do not buy any makeup, any hair stuff. Do not go there. Tell all your friends, stop. I'm telling you, we could make a difference by what we don't buy or what we don't buy into. You want to make the fashion or beauty industry or any of these things pay attention? Don't buy anything. Seriously, please spread the word. But if you want help, I'm here for you. Okay, and we have this person that says, thank you, John, for your public service and all of your important announcements.
Ah,
That's great. Well, it looks like we've come to the end of our questions, John. So that is really good. So, and we're getting late into the evening. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. And the replay will be up shortly after this is available for you folks. And if you've missed any of the questions or comments, just post them and be sure to tag either John or myself in order to be answered. Now, I have a public service announcement. Remember, my Canadian friends, elections up next month. Make sure to ask your candidates what they will do to repeal Bill C-16 and remove the protected class status that's growing in the rainbow community, or what will they do to enforce laws that protect women and children from the decimation that is happening, especially from people like Yaniv and Ogre, where our Canadian laws and our human rights commissions across the country are supporting this. So, it's costly, it's a farce, and you need to get them and make sure that they answer your questions, okay? So I just want to thank everybody for their coming here tonight. And John, thank you very much for all your information and your support and your frustration and your passion. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you very much, folks, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.